Welcome to the Time to Fly podcast. It's time to give your business wings and take flight to achieve more impact, influence, and income with unique perspectives, tools, and tips from successful entrepreneurs and business professionals to help your business fly. Here to educate, encourage, and entertain you with their own unique perspectives and experience, plus sharing anecdotes of growing up as cowgirls. Here's your host, Jill Fleming.
Hello, and welcome to the Time to Fly podcast. I'm your host today, Jill Fleming, and today I'm here with Christy Mattoon. Christy is an energy psychologist and hands-on healer. She works to help alter the mindset and subconscious mind and help with the issues that can stall out your business and your life and keep people from realizing their dreams and reaching their goals. Your thoughts determine your actions, and if your actions are not in alignment with your goals, you will struggle through it. She works to help you alter that mindset and subconscious mind that stall out your life. Christy is able to help you forget your past so that you can engage your future. Welcome, Christy. So happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Christy, tell me a little bit about your story of how you created Mind Rewire and your journey to date on how you've gotten to where you are today.
Sure. So my story basically begins with figuring out that I wasn't doing too well. It started out basically realizing I was 300 pounds. I was very sick. I was struggling. I was having all kinds of issues. And the journey began when I became aware that that was such a huge issue. Mind Rewire wasn't developed until I realized that part of my journey had to be straightening out my mind. It had to include getting rid of what I now call subconscious stress that was coming from a past that I didn't know anything about. So rectifying all the physical issues, the weight, the illnesses, all the things that came along with those kinds of problems, even when those were done, when the weight was off, when the illnesses were gone, I still had issues going on that I could feel. I always called it the undertow. It was like this feeling underneath everything else that I had. And what I recognized was that that was subconscious, and it was a stress that was inside my body coming from my childhood. And so that's when I set upon, the journey went from, I was a pastry chef, 300 pounds. I got healthy, turned into a personal trainer, enjoyed doing that. It was so much fun. And then that undertow just kept tugging at me, and things just kept morphing. And I turned in what now is an energy healer, energy psychology therapist. And what I do with people is help them transform that subconscious part of their thinking. So when I realized that that's what was holding me down, it became really easy to just kind of go through the natural processes to release those types of things. And that's what I do for people now.
So for those people that don't know the difference between the subconscious and the conscious mind, could you explain what that is?
Yeah, the conscious mind is kind of the thinking that you're aware of. When you're thinking it, you know what you're thinking, you're there with it, you're in the moment with it. The subconscious comes from a place where we're not always in tune with it. In fact, most times you have no idea that it's even going on. The subconscious is that part of your mind that actually helps control and regulate the rest of your body functions. So your breathing, your heart rate, all of these things go on under the level of consciousness. The subconscious part of your mind, we relate to the neuroplastic. It's that neuroplasticity, the pathways that you create when something happens in your life. So that subconscious part gets wedged into, we call it the neuroplastic in those pathways. And it's a thought that will happen. That thought creates chemicals inside your system, which is where you get the feeling. So now we have the thought, we have the memory, and over time, that thought, that memory, that feeling turn into a belief. And it turns into something you start living by. You believe it to be true about yourself, even though it may or may not be. It may not have anything to even do with you, which is even a more interesting feature of the subconscious, is when we've relived and rethought about subconsciously something over and over, and even just felt it over and over and over for years, you really think it's you, and it honestly has nothing to do with you.
Yes, I know when I first met you, I was struggling with some of my own issues, and you did some work with me, and I saw a huge shift in just my day-to-day activity where I would usually feel like I would hit up against a wall. It would be easier of like, oh, I'm actually doing this, and I wouldn't hit that wall. It was really fascinating working and going through your process of, what is it, you call it a whole brain state? Getting into a whole brain state and rewiring these belief systems and these things subconsciously that I didn't even realize that I had. Can you give me some examples of the things that you've helped your clients with and things that they've overcome?
Oh my goodness, so many things from all different walks of life. So right now I currently have probably people from 8 different countries all over the world. And it's interesting how everybody presents with the same types of issues, but they come from different places. And even in their minds, you know, the issue that caused it was different, but the words are always the same. I hate myself. I can't do this. I'm never going to make it. I'm not good enough. I don't belong here. Nothing works for me. Like, it's always the same kind of stuff. But the issue that caused it is always different. And so we come up with the same words describing it. So like one gentleman, what I actually was called on with him was to help him pass the bar exam. So he had tried it many, many different times. He had attempted, I think it was over a course of 9 different attempts to pass the bar exam. And every time he tried it, it just seeded in deeper in him that he wasn't good enough, that he couldn't do it, that he would never be able to. And this last time that he tried it, it was literally for him do or die. Like, if you don't pass it this time, there's no way you'll ever try it again. His wife was ready to leave him. It was a huge mess. Literally what we did was kind of a cookie cutter approach. We went into the subconscious mind, took that piece out that told him he couldn't do it, that he would never make it. So I call it desynchronizing the field. So we're basically desynchronizing the energy of whatever the issue is so that it's not affecting you so hard. What it does is it moves the chemicals away from the issue so you're not feeling it as much. You get a different perception of it. Once we did that, it was easy as walking him through the process of taking that test. We would walk into the room, sit down, and this is all visual imagery at this point. Sit down, he would take the test, and then always seeing it as if it was the outcome he was wanting, which was passing. And we did that probably for 2 weeks, over the course of 2 weeks, right before he went to take the test, and he passed it.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was crazy. To me, that was just mind-boggling. A gentleman that I'm working with right now from overseas, I believe he's in Germany, and he says his persistent feeling is that he's going to hell. And so somebody got hold of him when he was 9 years old and basically gave him this hell, fire, and brimstone story that he, you know, because of the belief system of the family, he bought into hardcore, and that's just followed him around his whole life, and literally to the point of he, you know, I don't want to say he's suicidal, but that's, you know, kind of the undernote of it is he can't keep living this way. I wish I could show you the text message he just sent me like 3 days ago. It said, if this isn't a miracle, I think it's the closest thing I'll ever find. Hell is gone. And I was just like, wow. And I haven't had a chance, because he is so far away, I haven't had a chance to speak to him personally yet. But it was just like, oh, wow. I mean, and we've worked, I think, together 4 times, and removing other pieces, there was little stuff on top of it. But that was like the big thing is, if I can't get rid of hell, I can't stay here. And hell is gone. So I'm like, and he's got 2 little kids, so I am just super excited for his family.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know, yeah, that one to me, that one made my heart race. And I just think, you know, God is so good. The energy that defines all of this stuff is so easily at our fingertips, right? And we just don't realize it sometimes. And when you finally come to realize that and how to use it inside the scope of your own life, that's when the doors blow off all of this stuff. I had a gal not too long ago I've been working with that was having gender identity crisis issues. And actually what it turned out to be was, you know, that issue was that issue, but the undertow of it was she lived under narcissism. And so she was constantly under this pull from a narcissistic family, and then it got into her adult life, and that was always the relationships that she was seeking was with narcissistic people. And so that's been a really interesting one, because it's so deep-seated that she has to always be the one giving and the one handing out. And she says she feels like she's just giving chunks of herself away. And so it was being able to pull that energy back to her, cut off the narcissism, and get her to finally believe that she's lovable for just who she is, for absolutely no other reason. Just you are you, and that's lovable enough. And so working through that with her, and she's actually gotten to a place now where just the other day she said she sat down and she was going to do some meditations, and the first thing that came to her was, I love you. That is beautiful.
That's foundational as well. Like we talk about here about giving your business wings. That's a life foundation that you carry forward in your life, in your business, in your career. It's a holistic effect. And
so
by shifting those belief systems, whatever you choose to do, it carries forward, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, so think about that for a second. If you don't love yourself, how are you going to love the people you work with? If you can't pass a test, how are you going to get through doing what it takes to get through the job itself, right? If you can't stand in front of a mirror and be kind to yourself, how are you going to ever be kind to the people that you're trying to serve? You know, that's where those roadblocks come in. And it's not that you might, you know, you're not kind to yourself and you don't love yourself, but if you believe you don't, it gets really hard to do anything else. I noticed with a lot of women, it's mostly women that I work with, one of the first things I do is clear a person's name, because if you've had any kind of trauma or stress from your past, a lot of times hearing your name is a trigger. And I have noticed with a lot of women, just hearing their name will just send them through the roof, but they don't even notice it. The second somebody says their name, they start getting that weird edge to them and start feeling those feelings and getting kind of like they're being pushed against or matted down feeling, a lot of them say. And so clearing their name all of a sudden gives them a different response. So when somebody calls your name, you can actually be open and aware and excited and happy instead of feeling like you're about to get slapped or pushed or get in trouble. So, I mean, think about answering the phone. If you're in business on the phone and somebody says your name and all of a sudden you get this feeling like you're about to get hit, that internal reaction is going to stall out that phone call no matter what you're trying to do on it all day long. So moving that kind of stuff is huge. I actually did this with, she was a school principal, and hearing her name, people coming into her office all day long barking her name. And she finally got to the point, she was just like, I'm going to hurt somebody. Like if one more person says my name. And I was just like, oh, no. So we set to work and cleared that up for her one session. And she called me back in tears and she goes, I did everything you said. And she goes, I set my office up we talked about all kinds of stuff with energy flow and how to, you know, clean out her office and make it more of a safe space for her, worked on her name. She said the first person that walked in, she was really curious. And when they said her name, she said she just sat there staring at him with these big, huge, like doe eyes. And they just looked at her like, what the heck is wrong with you? Because normally she would glare at him. And she was just like, oh, yeah. So stuff like that, I think it makes a huge difference when you're talking about trying to start a business and move into a business place, but you've got that undertow. I always call it the undertow. It's those weird little pangs that are from underneath, or if it's a glaring cycle or pattern that you're caught in, it's subconscious. Moving that first will make everything so much easier.
Wow, those are amazing results. With that, I want to take a quick sponsor break. We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Beyond Logic Coaching and Consulting with strategist, visionary, entrepreneur, and best-selling author Jill Fleming. Get your free gift at livingbeyondlogic.com. Welcome back. I'm here with Christy Mattoon. We've been talking about mind rewire, how blocks and subconscious beliefs can keep you from taking flight and really going out and expanding into your life, your business, or your career. And before the break, Christy, you were telling me some results that you had gotten with some of your clients. What are the top 3 things that you think you help with?
As far as business goes, I help a lot of salespeople, people who are in direct sales where they're actually having to talk to people and go through a process to sell their product or sell, you know, whatever it is they're selling. And there's a definite structure to sales. That's not what I work on. I work on the fear that people have of going through that structure. So a lot of times, you know, Mind Rewire is really about structuring your thinking so that it automatically defaults to things that help you get through a process. Your mind will default to a positive end of it. So a lot of times in sales, fear comes up because you're asking people for money. You're asking them for something that they've worked hard for. You're asking them to buy in to what you believe in. So a lot of times, you know, on the sales end of it, just moving that block of fear so that it's okay to talk about money. It's okay to even ask for the price that you set if you're selling your own product, you know, making it okay to be able to ask for that price point, feeling strong about what it is you're doing. The fear behind something, you know, obviously it will stall out all kinds of things, but within the scope of business, if you're afraid to be doing what you're doing or what you're trying to do, to get on the phone and sell it, you'll never make it. So we have to get rid of the block of fear. Another one of the things is just being seen, putting yourself out there. What I do right now is a lot of online stuff. So my coaching is in Zoom. I'm selling, it's a 30-minute session that I give away free, and then people come in and talk to me, and I see if what I do is right for you, basically. And then we talk about sessions after that. But if I can't even show up or put my product out there so people can see it and find it, they'll never see it and find it. So you have to be Brave would be a good word, or bold enough to just put your stuff out there, show up and be seen. It's a whole different thing if you're in the speaking circuit or you're in a thing like that where you literally are being seen face to face in front of people. And so I think people a lot of times will get kind of caught up just letting people see them, but they really know they want to do this thing, whatever your thing is, but then you can't go do it. I think the word, and I've heard you talk about this a lot, is people being introverted, calling yourself out and saying that you're being introverted or you can't do it because of that reason. And I would take this straight back to what you think is what you create. If you think you're an introvert, you're going to act like an introvert. If you think of yourself in a different regard, even for just that moment, if you think of yourself as a superhero, as you think of yourself and change your posture, change your mindset, change your attitude, in that moment, you can become that thing. If it's stuck in your subconscious, let's remove the subconscious block to it.
Right, and that's what I say too, is introvert, extrovert, it's really all just about how you energetically recharge. I see a lot of people using, oh, well, I'm an introvert, and they use that as an excuse. It's like, no, it's about how you recharge. There's a lot of people who are very successful business people who are introverted, but they know how to manage their energy when they're out in public and how to be seen and how to put themselves out there in a way that doesn't drain them or that allows them to recharge in a certain way. So that's definitely something energy management-wise that I think is always really important too. But first, you have to remove those blocks of, or maybe even remove those excuses that you rely on or move past that fear, those types of tools that you can help with. And I personally, I've worked with you myself, and I know I've seen a huge difference in even just launching this podcast. Podcasts have been in the works that Nicole and I have been talking about it for about 18 months. And finally, we're just like, okay, let's put it out there. That was one of my blocks that you worked with me on, is being seen and putting myself out there and being willing to receive the judgment. Because unfortunately in our society, there is a lot of judgment. Whenever you put yourself out there, everyone has an opinion. You helped me to see that the people who are going to be attracted to me or are going to resonate with my energy will seek me out, and those who aren't won't, and that's okay. And I was just recently at something that someone mentioned to me. They're like, be a billboard of brilliance. And if you think of when you drive down the road and you look up at the billboard, sometimes it resonates and sometimes it doesn't. And so the people that you don't resonate with will drive on by, and the people that you do resonate will be like, oh, I should check that out. And it's definitely getting right with your energy and overcoming those blocks. For me, it was of being seen, of putting myself out there and being willing to receive that judgment from people. You can't put your gifts out into the world and help people if you're hiding under the covers.
No, it's absolutely not good. And I would have to say, and I've heard this from a number of different people that are leaders in the industry, that your haters will actually make your lovers like you more. The people that hate you, when they say negative things about you, will bring the people who love you out of the woodwork, and they will actually defend you and protect you. And that gets really interesting, like on a Facebook post, even in YouTube, if you've posted a video and you get somebody on there making snide comments, and then all of a sudden you've got a couple people coming to your rescue, you don't even have to say a word. It just handles itself. So, think back about the idea of making an excuse. An excuse is actually a belief. If I'm making consistent excuses for something over and over, stop and ask yourself when you hear yourself making an excuse, oh, I'm an extrovert, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not good enough, I can't do that. Oh, I don't know enough, I can't do that. Oh, I don't have that education, I can't do that. Whatever the thing is, stop and ask yourself, is this excuse that I'm making for whatever I can't do actually a belief system? Because you have to stop and look at it and say, can I really do that thing? Can I actually put myself in front of people and speak? Of course I can. It's literally just standing there and talking. Fear or no fear, you can do that. If the belief is, I can't be seen, like I'm really scared of this, then we have to switch that to something where we get rid of those chemicals, because what are the chemicals of fear? Adrenaline and cortisol, right? And then you stack all the other neurochemicals on top of there that help with that. Dopamine, I think, is in there a little bit. If you flip that, and you can even change your concept and your idea of what it is you're afraid of, instead of being afraid, what if it's excitement? What are the chemicals of excitement? A little bit of adrenaline, a little bit of cortisol, more serotonin and dopamine, right? You're just switching chemicals. If all of a sudden, instead of being in fear, I'm excited for the same thing, and you sit there and resonate with it, that by itself can change a belief. Instead of being in fear, now all of a sudden I'm excited about this thing. And it's literally just the chemicals in your system matching the thought. If I can get my chemicals to match the thought of the thing that I want, I've got to win.
Yes, I often, when I'm working with my clients, fear and excitement are often misidentified. It's because it's the exact same physical reactions in your body. And oftentimes fear is misidentified with excitement. And so if you redefine it of, no, I'm not scared, I'm actually really excited about this, and lean into that belief system, you can really shift it.
Yep. And then what I do is take it and stick it in your subconscious mind so that you're structuring that thinking into your subconscious. It becomes an automatic default. That's when you open your eyes the next day and you're like, oh, wow, I'm not even scared of this anymore. I just have to go do it. And then you have to put action behind whatever it is you're trying to do.
Well, and it comes back to one of my favorite quotes of whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You help people mind rewire, so that you think you can. And how does it get better than that? So Christy, as we wrap up here, what would you leave our listeners with, helping them to give themselves wings to take flight? Do you have any quick little tips or tricks that they can use that can help shift that for them?
Yeah, whatever it is that you're struggling against, whatever excuses you keep making, you have to counter it the second it comes into your head. You have to become aware of it, you have to call it out, and then you have to do like 360 degrees the opposite. So for years, my biggest mantra was, I hate myself. Years under the toe, like I never even recognized I was saying it, but I acted it out all over in my life. When I finally heard the words in my head, and I literally would sit there repeating, I hate myself, over and over and over. And when I recognized I was doing that, and then it's like, whoa, wait a minute. And somebody else had told me this every time, counter it. Every time you hear it, counter it, come against it, say something else. And it was a really slow beginning because I was just like really startled me that it was even in there. But I started, countering it. What's 360 degrees the opposite of I hate myself? I love myself. And I did not feel that way. I didn't think it was true. It didn't even make sense to me. But the more I said it, and every time that other thing came up, it didn't necessarily stick it in my subconscious for a very long time. But what it did do was counter that negative, I hate myself, and all of the thoughts that came with it started falling away. So all of the other stuff that came with I hate myself started leaving my sphere of awareness. And it was probably maybe a year and a half worth of work. And it was actually when I was losing all of my weight. It was really interesting how it all happened. But every time it happens, every time you see it, every time you notice yourself doing that thing, being in that cycle, you have to stop yourself, switch gears, and do something totally different. The more you can oppose it, the better you're going to get at opposing it, and the faster it's going to start to fall away. Or you can do something like I do, and we just go in and talk to the subconscious mind. It's that cookie cutter approach. We cut out the bad part, we put the good stuff in. So we're taking out the bad, putting in the good, giving you a totally different way to think almost instantly.
And now if somebody would like to find you to see if they'd be a good fit to work with you, how can they find you?
You can go to mindrewire.com and book a free session. And so it's a strategy session. And literally what we're doing is talking about what's going on in your life. What are you struggling with? How long has it been there? What have you done to try and conquer it? And I tell you a little bit about how I work and what I do, and we see if it's a match. I always want to make sure that what I do can actually help you. If I don't think it's going to help you, I'm going to let you know that because I don't want to waste your time or your resources. So if what I feel like, you're struggling with is subconscious and something that we can move, then we'll go after it. But that's the easiest way to get a hold of me really quickly is to just book that appointment and then jump on a call with me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for taking the time today to share all of your wisdom and your resources on how to help people get unstuck, unblocked, so that they can be able to fly in their life, their business, or their career. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, it's time to fly. Give your business wings.
A big thank you to this episode's sponsor, Beyond Logic Coaching and Consulting. Be sure to get your free gift at livingbeyondlogic.com.
Join our flock. Stay informed of all things Time to Fly by subscribing to our newsletter at timetoflypodcast.com. And be sure to tune in to our next show.